About 20 minutes. So, yeah, I'll wrap it up when it's time.
Perfect.
Welcome back to another episode of RecTalk. I'm your host, Nitin Sharma, founder and CEO of RecTools.io, co-founder of RecCircle, host of RecTalk, co-founder of the Recruitment Curry Club, and all sorts of weird and wonderful shit that I like to get involved in. My guests today are Stewart and Kan from the RecTools recommended Avensys Tech, and Mayachi. I did that in a weird order then. That's going to be incredibly difficult for Tristan to edit afterwards. But guys, what are we talking about?
I'll let Stewart lead the charge.
Well, I think it's just more a case of how agencies should be outsourcing IT, not do it themselves, not go the shortcut way.
Yep.
And the same with looking at back office accounts and funding. It should really be done, outsource it. Recruiters should do what they do best and get it set up in the right way.
Correct.
IT especially, cybersecurity and everything like that is very important in recruitment.
Look, I'll be honest, from a personal experience perspective, when I ran the recruitment business that I ran, I did all of the IT in my business, and between me and my business partner, we basically bumbled our ways through the finances, right? So I know that this is a common trend. This is what happens. The reality is that we don't necessarily put the right level of importance on these things, largely because we're just really good salespeople, but we're not very good business people. So look, we've got 20 minutes. Tell them what you know. Tell them why they need to be using you guys, right?
Yeah, well, I think from my perspective, obviously I've been running Mayachi now since January last year, and the thing I'm noticing is, as you said, recruiters, they're great at selling, they're great at doing recruitment, but often they'll go, well, I can raise my own invoices, or I can maybe do my own credit control, I can do some bookkeeping, because they've seen on a radio ad that basically you can do your VAT return going up a mountain and things like that. It's not as easy as that. Those softwares
firing shots at QuickBooks there.
But it is one of those things that that recruiters get talked into by maybe an accountant into actually doing that themselves. They are recruiters. They should be on the phone. I'd much rather, instead of them spending, even if it's 1 hour a week, doing their bookkeeping and doing their invoicing and their credit control, they are actually just instead sitting on the phone and maybe making that one extra placement. And the cost of outsourcing nowadays is a lot cheaper than what actually people think. So to outsource it to, there's a large number of recruitment specific providers. It's a case of why not go down that route. It's a case of that it makes your company look much larger if you outsource it, rather than the person who does the placement is also the person then that sends the invoice, that then chases the invoice. It really doesn't make any sense to actually do that yourself.
Oh, yeah, I hear that.
And I've got a number of people at the moment who are going through a bad time because they haven't done that. So I've got one client at the moment who they just gave their books and records to an accountant, and basically they didn't do any checks and things like that. And we're now looking at getting all of their accounts redone, which is going to cost. There's a big negligence claim going on those kind of things. And then there was another one I know, there's a team member, and unfortunately she's been doing her bookkeeping wrong for the last 3 years, just had a VAT audit, and the VAT man has picked up that she was overclaiming for some VAT. And it's a case of she's now, it's not the way it should be, and that's because her accountant has said, you could do it.
You use QuickBooks to do it on a mountain.
That's it. Exactly. You're riding a bike and all the rest of it. And it's those kind of things that outsourcing should definitely be the way to go. And that's what I help my agencies with. I don't do it myself, but I find the right providers and make sure actually that the providers are actually working with the agency, and it works well for me as well.
What about you, Kan? Because yours is a different beast in itself, right? I can talk from experience in that we grew the business to 15 heads, and between me and Tristan, who's behind the camera, we were the IT managers of our business, right? At what point are you finding that people turn to you guys and go, do you know what, we're ready for this?
So there's two things there, right? So I'm going to play to some of the stuff that Stuart's already mentioned about, getting it done right at the start, but also, you're outsourcing your stuff, for example, to accountants here who aren't doing the job correctly. Now, the sad reality is I've been an IT manager for 16 years in the field, dealt with MSPs like myself for that amount of time. And I started this business because there's a lot of cowboys out there who don't know, well, A, sometimes don't know what they're doing, and B, don't tell you exactly what you have already, hence costing you more in the long run.
Interesting.
And you see a lot of this in pricing, right? So you have some MSPs quoting like £18 a user per month, or some quoting £100 per user a month.
Yeah.
So how does one then compare apples and apples, or are you comparing apples and pears?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that as well. So that, like as Stuart mentioned, it's about that industry experience. It's about that, what is this supplier trying to give you? What value is it delivering? Does £18 a month give you value, or does it give a bot who's going to answer a phone call but not actually tell you, you should be looking at this? Or have you utilized your products to the right capabilities? So what we do is, or what I started Avensys to do, was to help businesses utilize what they have already, right? Yes, we sound a little bit more expensive than the rest of them at about £40 per user per month, but I feel that's very reasonable given the stuff that I have done out in the field.
It's the education piece.
It is the education
with
piece.
Yeah.
It is also the piece around, showing you how to use your tools, but also making sure that you're not buying tools that you don't need. Because there are products, like we spoke about bookings recently.
Yeah.
There are tools like, Planner. There are tools like Lists, SharePoint, Copilot. The list goes on, that are available within Microsoft 365 that you can utilize within your business to make more from less. Right? And a principle of ours is less is actually more. But again, I agree wholeheartedly with Stuart. Recruiters, they're really great at doing sales, getting candidates, speaking to clients, etc. Stick to what you're best at, right? And leave the heavy lifting to people like us. But then again, there's that question: who do you trust?
Yeah.
And how do you find that trusted
That's the
resource?
key point, though, isn't it? Because there are so many. Well, you've been quite open at the fact that you saw the reason you started your business was because of the amount of shysters that were out there. You're
Correct.
dealing with accountants who have like fudged up and created an issue where negligence claims are being now banded around, right? So how do you find the right people? How do you know who to trust? Because that must be your biggest challenge as an outsourced supplier, right?
Yeah. It's a case of I always I make recommendations, because everyone I go to, I always make sure I go out and maybe get 4 or 5 quotes for the client. So I'll go to 4 or 5 of the providers I know who have been in the industry for a long time, or I might have had a client with, or currently got a client with, so I know the quality of what they actually do. And then it's a case of I then present those quotes to the agency, and it will be, sometimes they might just go based on price, but I'll also say you have to have a conversation with these people. You actually have to build a relationship, because these are going to be people who are going to be maybe speaking to your clients when they're chasing those invoices. They're going to be the ones sending those emails to your clients with the copies of the invoices. So there's got to be a trust element on there. It's up to the agency. It's their choice still. I don't ever go, this is the one provider you must use, because it's got to be right for the agency.
I understand that.
I think I 100% agree with that. And like I said, going out to the market, looking at what is out there is definitely the place to start. But also speaking to existing clients of those and understanding what they're feeling. It's a bit difficult. I mean, go through Google reviews, go through Trustpilot, try and see if you can get hold of those people who actually say negative things about those to understand, because they're never going to put forward to you someone who's unhappy with them, right? So I've been through this process as an internal IT manager, selecting MSPs for I think about 5 times in my 16 years as an IT manager. And it's very difficult, right? Even for me to get the right supplier, because you never know till they're on the other side. And sometimes they let the ball loose after the first 3 months.
Yeah.
But I think also as well, when you've got people like us who know what good looks like, we can actually, again, keep those providers to a level as well. So I will quite often go, right, okay, we need to tighten up on this. This is bit that I'm seeing, because I'm still there non-exec, and I'm basically seeing the quality of their accounts and things like that. No one's always going to be perfect, but for me to know what is best practice helps my agency clients, because then I can actually turn around and say, this is what you should be having, rather than someone going, I can give you this, this, and this, and this, and then they sign up and then they never actually provide it. And so I always have quite high quality. And also it's my reputation on the line for actually providing the recommendations.
Right? I always found that where it kind of landed for me was that actually, yes, I could hire somebody in-house to do something, right? I could hire an in-house IT person. I could hire a in-house bookkeeper or whatever. But the benefit for me that as a business owner, when I looked at the outsourcing model, was that we're agreeing a statement of work. We have terms of business that we are holding you to. And if you drop the ball, well then there's my get out of jail free card, or there's my, I ain't paying you for that
No.
because you fucked that up,
Yeah.
right? You can't do that with a member of staff.
No.
You can't go, well, I'm not going to pay you this month
No.
because actually you've misfiled that VAT return.
No, or if
That's
they
not
steal
gonna
all
happen.
your money out of your bank account, you
yeah.
can't do anything with that staff member. Yes, you can ring the police, but you're sacking them, but they actually still not going to
That's
potentially
it.
get your money back.
Yeah.
But you do work with a provider and they might accidentally send some money in the wrong place or something like that. You've got that callback and liability.
You've got a contract that's an agreement that's ironclad effectively,
Yeah.
which allows you to hold them to a higher standard. And that was the bit for me that swung it, where I was like, well, that kind of makes sense now, really, doesn't it? 'Cause
Yeah, I think
can't-
also the one thing, and if you have one person who does all your accounts, if you have one person who does all your IT,
Yep.
they go on holiday, they're sick,
Yep.
they get hit by a bus,
Yeah.
you then lose that resource. Whereas
Yeah.
when you're outsourcing it and you're actually giving it to a company, that company has to have measures in place to make sure there is that 24/7 support if you are on a 24/7 support, or if it's a 9 till 5:30.
regardless of staffing and
It's a
whatever,
case of that any provider I work with, there is no excuse of, I'm sorry, I'm too busy. It's a case of, unfortunately, there's a service level agreement that you have to stick to. You
Correct.
can't be too busy because actually I'm paying you for that service. Whereas you've got an internal staff member, I said, does that mean they can never go on holiday?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
or they can never be sick? It's a case of...
Yeah, and I guess the flip side of that then is also that you want these people to kind of not take that knowledge away with them if they leave,
Yep.
right?
Uh-huh.
And equally, you're restricting yourself. So look, I'm bringing an IT, take IT as an example, right? I'm bringing an IT person into my business, into my recruitment business, because I'm not an expert in that space. So I bring this person in. Oh, I decide I'm going to bring him in-house, and I start interviewing. I don't know what good looks like.
No.
I don't know what the fuck do I know what I'm looking
No.
for. So I'm gonna go with the one that charms me the most, you know, or makes me feel like, yeah, this person knows what they're doing. But there's no evidence that this person knows what they're doing.
Yeah. So another thing, again, I was on the internal side, right? And one of the things is that we struggle up with internally is keeping up to pace with the changes. I put out a video recently on LinkedIn showing you two ducks struggling against the currents of the water. And it is exactly that. Cybersecurity landscape changes so rapidly. Microsoft changes their environment so rapidly. And keeping up to speed is a challenge. But us as service providers, we need to keep up with those challenges to provide better service for our customers. Whereas internal resources, you know, they work 9 to 5 and switch off and that's it. However, that's not saying that we don't work with internal resources. So one of the things that we do and we like doing is augmenting internal teams, giving them that pool of resources as well as knowledge that they wouldn't otherwise have internally.
Well, it effectively works the same for yourself, right?
That's
in that
it,
you
yeah.
go out and learn the things that they ain't got the time to learn.
Yep.
So that you can come in and upskill and educate them on the changes that are happening.
That's
That's it. And I do have
What a
some
great balance.
I do have some clients who, again, like as Cam said as well, it's more a case of that they've got maybe a person who does their invoicing. They don't want to get rid of their invoicing person. So instead, I will work with that person. I'll just make sure that the quality of what they're doing is up to date. You know, I've been in agencies where I've got it and they've never done their intermediary reporting.
Right.
And things like that. And you just go, you do realise that, and it's because the person who's come in has maybe been a bookkeeper and not necessarily been in recruitment and didn't know that intermediary reporting needs to be done if you're doing contractors. And so, again, it's as you said, it's that skill level. It's keeping, if you're outsourcing, the outsourced provider has to keep the levels always high. They have to be knowing what's going on, current trends, what's going on with the right new technology and those kind of things. If you're doing that internally, you also have to keep that up to date with your current internal people. Now, how are you going to do that? It's like having a training plan for a bookkeeper who has to keep up with the new changes in VAT legislation, or NI increases on payroll or something like that, and it will be exactly the same as you said on changes in the software.
Yes, and our stuff changes more often than you guys' finance stuff. But if they're doing all that, when are they actually doing the work they're supposed to be doing?
That's it,
right?
yeah.
So there's that as a thing as well. But one of the other things, obviously, we pride ourselves in is saving people money, right? So we look through, in between the lines, help people reduce the wastage that they would have. And, you know, we know this because we've worked in different companies, we work with different recruiters. We know what works, we know what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And Stewart obviously has been famously quoted for this more than I have, actually.
My average last year was £12,000 per client saving. which was great. My largest saving was 55 grand last year on one client,
Brilliant.
which
Great
was,
work.
you know, moving their, you know, eliminating, unfortunately, their internal resource who was doing their pay and bill, a very bad accountant, and looking at their invoice finance and making all those changes, outsourcing it, changing their invoice finance deal, saving £55,000. So yeah, there is money to be saved, and this is why speaking to someone, you know, I give my 2 hours for free to my clients, and those 2 hours, most of the time, you're going to come away with a nugget of information, or there's going to be some major saving along the line, and that's what it's about. It's a case of.
I think on that though, that's really key in the role that you guys play in this space right now is that education piece.
Yeah.
We had it, the Recruitment Curry Club that you were at, and again we were a fair few beers in at this point.
Exactly. Yeah.
And all I heard was that guy knows his stuff so well. Like that. Oh my god, that blew my mind. I didn't realise that. I didn't realise this.
I love Bobby's quote, and he said, "I learned more from Stewart in 15 minutes than I have from my accountant in the last 5 years." And I love that. That is one of my favourite things that I've heard.
And that's the point. And again, Bobby's another example of Bobby messaged me and was like, "I've just watched the full episode with you and Kan." Like, yeah, what do you think? He was like, "Mate, unreal.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how much he knows about Microsoft and just that bit about bookings." That's saving me because I've gone, forget calendar, I'm just going to use bookings now. And he's focusing on that and that kind of thing. And I think that's the bit that is missing in our industry is that, look, you guys are the ones with the knowledge. You guys are the ones with the understanding. Just selling it as a concept to recruitment business owners isn't enough. You need to educate these guys.
Yeah, 100%.
They don't know what they don't know. And your job is to educate.
As you said, you've been in it for 16 odd years, internal, and obviously same as me. Me and Kan actually were at the same agency, just at different times. But we've actually been in agency and seen it from an inside, and now we're obviously running our own business. But it is, for both of us, I think, it's a case of that being honourable first on the actual providing the wealth of knowledge that we've got, rather than holding it back or just doing it at an excessive cost. It just won't work, really.
No. And going back to what Nitin started this conversation on about is at what point do we see an entry point into services like us? And Stewart and I were having this conversation yesterday, and I said, well, you know, we take on anyone from one person up to 250 users, right? But you know, if someone turns around to me and says, you know, I'm too small for you, I tend to shy away, whereas Stewart says, no, you should be considering it. Well, my answer to that as well, again, is you should be considering IT support services. You're never too small for IT services. And, you know, the thing is, traditionally, IT services are seen to be a cost center that's too expensive to enter because of all the setup charges and all of the other things that go with it. But so things that we do a special package for startups, where we, you know, take away all those barriers and make it more accessible.
So anchor up if you need to. From our conversation, what got me was the countless hours that me and, again, Tristan behind the camera would spend setting up laptops for new starters, right? And all right, we need to download this app, download that, get Microsoft Office on there, get this on there, log them into this, get them signed up on Google Chrome, everything, right? And the fact that we could just go,
you can automate it.
This is what we need. Every time we have a new starter, can you just make sure these things are ready? And that in itself is worth paying for.
Well, of course, that's because you're outsourcing the job to someone. But what if I told you that Microsoft 365 inbuilt has that as a product called Autopilot? So you can have all your applications, you can have all of your settings for Outlook, you know, Edge, etc. I advocate Edge these days. Do not go Google Chrome. I said that with a menacing look to the camera because
he gets paid to say that.
No, I don't get paid to say that. Edge is actually safer these days, guys. Believe it or not.
It's dreadful, though.
It is actually a better browser. Let's not get into an Edge Chrome conversation here, mate.
I wasn't going to say it.
It's not. It kind of.
Microsoft don't pay me. So
exactly.
Microsoft don't pay me. Okay. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is it integrates really well with the Microsoft ecosystem. But you can have all of those things configured and deployed into a laptop, which could be done automatically. So no more calling the IT guys. Right, the IT guys can allocate it to a person and do the admin work.
Again, knowing that somebody's in the background there that can help and is able to help, should I need it, it's that's worth its weight in gold.
Of course,
because the amount of time that people like myself and Tristan would spend on these things that would just be taking me away from, like we said right at the start, the thing that I was good at, the revenue driving.
That's
right?
it.
Less downtime means you get to focus on growth, and that
it
also
says growth. See the thing.
There you go.
From here, it looked like
gout.
Focus on gout.
Focus on growth, man.
Focus on your gout injury.
Yeah, do what you do best. Go recruit. Go get candidates. Fill positions. But it is.
All right, what's the objection you guys get? Let's talk real, because it's not as though you're going to convert everyone you speak to.
Nope.
Right? So what are the objections that you guys hear the most?
I don't actually.
Because I don't speak to anyone.
Well, no, because
my automation does it for me.
No, I think actually it's because I do that 2 hours for free.
Yeah.
It's a case that they're already then bought into that 2 hours. They might not speak to me after that because they go, actually, I've got all the knowledge I want to, but then I feel I've gained just by giving that 2 hours for free. The objection...
Because you're qualifying out, aren't you? You're qualifying those that are literally just there for the freebies.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that go to the expos for the stress balls and the pens.
That's it.
Yeah, take your shit and go.
That's it. Or
The ones
download
that
the
left,
guide and
right,
that's it.
let's do
It's
it,
more a case of actually, I can identify... I've had calls with people who are never worked in recruitment. I've done my 2 hour session with someone who's never worked in recruitment. I had a bricklayer. I've had a lorry driver, and I've gone through. I've done my 2 hours free with them as if like they've... as if they were a recruiter, but I know after that they're probably not going to be a recruitment agency that I will continuously work with afterwards, only because I don't know if they would be as successful because they're not got that recruitment buy. Everyone thinks that recruitment is easy. It isn't. It's a skill, it's an art, it's something. I know it's not something you go to school and you learn how to be a recruiter, but it does actually have, you can't just kind of go, today I'm going to be a recruiter. I've had so many times.
So many people do though.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, it was kind of, we would get at least 1 or 2 calls a week, and it was from nurses or a doctor. I'm working in the NHS, and this recruitment agency I'm working for is ripping me off. Yeah, they're charging £25 and I'm only being paid £13.50, and I'm like, you do realise you've got NI, you've got holiday pay, you've got pension, you've got all of these additional costs. And I said the agency's probably, and also they're paying you before the client is paying them, so there's a funding cost, and then suddenly they're going, oh right, so how much money are they making per hour? £1.50. Right, okay, they're not ripping you off. They're making £1.50 an hour off of your invoices. So it's those kind of things that recruitment is something that you need to have experience of in order to then actually, if you want to go and start your own recruitment agency, you can't just go, well, I've never done recruitment before and I'm starting a business. It's a double-edged sword. You're basically going to fall on it. And it's not a case of that recruitment isn't, well, I found my mate a job. Or something along those lines. I've heard all the excuses. I've been really good as an internal recruiter. I was like, internal recruiter? Yeah, well, I was the office manager and I would find a few people for the office. That's not recruitment. It's those are the kind of people I can use
comes
my
back to
2
that
hours.
education piece. But actually, what you've done there is effectively gone, if I triage these people and give 2 hours of my time, at least then I can filter out the ones that I want to work with and can work with. Versus the ones that aren't worth it.
That's it. But still given that 2 hours for them to have every opportunity.
That education piece.
That's it. To give them every opportunity.
What about you, Cam? What kind of objections do you guys get?
So the 2 objections we get is either we're too small, as in they are too small for IT, and the other objection we get is, we already have a supplier.
Yeah.
Now, for the we already have a supplier people, you don't know what you don't know till you know what you know, right? Until you open that bonnet up and see whether the supplier is actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, I'll tell you a few horror stories from when I took over my roles as an IT manager within SMEs, basically. You come in, you evaluate what the MSP is charging the business. So, okay, so there's a line, one of the businesses I took over, there's a line for disaster recovery services. £1,700 a month. Charge for 2 years already because it was a 3-year contract. And again, contracts, I hate long-term contracts. Customers shouldn't be locked in. They should be willing to stay with you.
Agreed.
I went through everything and I asked the guys, so can I see this disaster recovery thing? What is it? Is it actually a system? Is it no? It's a document. They said. I said, so you're charging the client £1,700 a month for a bloody document. And yes, so can I see this document? Because it must be made out of gold, right?
Yeah.
It took them 3 months to produce this document.
It didn't exist, did
It
it?
didn't exist. So the thing is, right? How do you know that your suppliers are doing what they're saying they're doing? And it's always good to kind of sense check them in the market, right? And that's another service that we offer. So we offer a digital MOT, which we go in and have a look at what you're spending right now. What
And that's
services
your
are going.
triage piece then as
That's
well.
our triage piece. So
Yeah.
there's a free version of it where we do a little bit of the financial review of what you're spending and tell you, hey, you shouldn't be spending this. But if you want a more in-depth, deeper look as a third-party view on what's going on because you're locked into a contract, then we can come in and do that as well. And that piece is more in the lines of kind of, lift the bonnet up, go inspect the engine.
It's a full service.
It's a full service. Yeah.
But again, that is a triage piece, right? Because then what you're doing is going, right, do you want the free version or are you going to pay? How seriously are you taking this?
Yeah.
Is this just something you've thought about this morning or is this something that's bugged you to the point of submission and you've gone, I'd rather pay someone to come in and have a look at this. Right?
I think with both services, I was going to say for your service especially, if people don't go down the route of setting it set up correctly in the first place, what will happen is when it actually does go wrong, it can be a major catastrophe.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole business can be crippled. It could go, data security, you must have cybersecurity threats, you've got ransomware and all the rest of it, and all of those.
This is where the education piece comes back in, right? Because your guys' responsibility as suppliers into this space is to do that exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You've got to educate on not only here's the good shit that we're good at, but actually here's the cases where things have gone wrong for people.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be you.
Yeah.
As I said,
Gents, we are running short on time.
Yep.
I'm sorry
Perfect.
to cut you
That's
off.
all right. No worries.
Our next guest that lined up, we are running short on time, but I'd love to do this again sometime.
Perfect.
You're obviously RecTalk's recommended supplier, so you'll be back on at some point again. Guys, if you want to hear more from Stewart or from Kan, previous episodes that they've done will be in the descriptions below. Along with their LinkedIn profiles, reach out to them, get in touch with them, take advantage of the MOT service and the triage and the 2 hours of conversation. I can't recommend it enough, but that's all from us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us,
I really
Nitin.
appreciate
Cheers,
this.
mates.
Thank you.
See you soon.
New episodes drop every Wednesday and every Friday. We'll see you again. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, and doing all the cool shit that you guys do to keep us number one. Ta-ra.
Cheers. Could we get one picture quickly from my
Of course.
LinkedIn?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.